Richard Hammond admits this, making Mindy Hammond sad. Richard Hammond, known as one of the three hosts of Top Gear, has always had a strong, cheerful and sometimes mischievous demeanor. But on a cold evening in late autumn, when the Hammond family gathered for dinner, a truth that Richard had never revealed changed the atmosphere completely. Richard's wife, Mindy, was preparing dinner for the family. She always loved warm meals where everyone could share stories and enjoy the family atmosphere. At that time, Richard had just returned home after a long day of meetings and a busy schedule related to new projects, including work on the Grand Tour. He walked into the dining room with a smile on his face, but there was something in his eyes that made Mindy feel different. Mindy smiled as she looked at her husband, but a strange feeling suddenly arose in her heart. Richard sat down and began the conversation as usual, but today he seemed more hesitant than usual. After a few minutes of sitting still, he spoke. "You know, Mindy, today is a special day for me." Mindy looked up, raising her eyebrows and asked, "What special day? I am not the type to remember these days easily." Richard smiled, but it was a meaningful smile. "I am officially 55. Richard's words suddenly changed the atmosphere in the room. Mindy couldn't react immediately, she just looked at him with an unreadable expression. She knew Richard wasn't someone who cared much about age, but she sensed something very serious in his voice. "I know you've always had a rather complicated relationship with age, but why are you suddenly talking about this?" Mindy asked, her voice slightly worried. Richard was silent for a moment, his eyes fixed on the space in front of him. "You know, when a man gets to my age, he starts to realize some things he never thought much about before. Health, time, and the opportunities he missed." Mindy was a little surprised, and a feeling of sadness rose in her heart. Richard, the man she had always seen as strong and confident, was now sharing such deep thoughts about age and life. She knew this was more than just a casual admission. There was something deeper that Richard felt the need to say. "What are you talking about?" Mindy asked softly, trying to hide her emotions. Richard looked at her, his eyes looking more tired than usual. "I just realized that, even though I've always lived life to the fullest, always doing the things I love, sometimes I haven't spent enough time with the people who matter most. Like you, like our family." Mindy felt her heart sink. She had always known that Richard was a workaholic, a man who loved to explore and be adventurous. But she also knew that the trips and projects could never replace the precious moments with his family. Don't you think I understand?" Richard continued, his voice soft, but there was a regret in it that Mindy had never imagined. "There were times when I thought I had more time to do those things. But now I find that I don't have as many opportunities as before." Mindy looked at her husband, the words like a gentle knife stabbing into her heart. She had longed for the days when he would stop working and spend more time with his family. But now, she realized that her worries were probably only a small part of what Richard was going through. "I know you always wanted us to have more time together," Richard said, his voice low. "I'm so sorry for all the times I wasn't there. I didn't want you to feel alone." Mindy didn't say anything. She felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she held them back. She didn't want him to see her weak, even though her heart was heavy. Richard saw her silence, and knew he had upset her. He sighed, then gently took Mindy's hand, trying to comfort her. "I don't want you to be sad, Mindy. But I have to face the facts. I know I can't change the past, but I will try to change the way I live, so that I can create memories with you and my family." Mindy looked at her husband, finally nodding. "I understand, Richard, and I will always be there for you. I just hope you don't miss out on precious moments anymore." That story was not only Richard's acknowledgement of his age, but also a reminder that in this life, time is the most precious thing. And sometimes, when everything changes, we need to learn to appreciate the people around us. Mindy looked at Richard for a long moment, sensing the change in him. She had always known Richard as a strong person, always facing challenges and relentlessly pursuing his passions. But today, seeing him having deep thoughts about age in the past, she felt a strange sadness invade her mind. Do you really think so? Mindy asked softly, her voice choked up. She knew Richard was not a person who showed his emotions, but this time he shared deep thoughts that she had never imagined he would reveal. Richard looked at her, his eyes softening now, but perhaps unable to erase the hesitant feelings in his heart. I don't regret what I did, Mindy. But there are times when I wonder if I could have done more for my family, for you, for the people who have always been there for me. Mindy was silent, her eyes began to well up with tears, but she didn't want to show Richard her weakness. She had always felt happy when he was by her side, but she couldn't deny that his long trips and busy schedules had made her feel lonely many times. The days he was away, the evenings when it was just her and the empty meals, although she always tried to create a cozy atmosphere for the family, nothing could replace the presence of her beloved husband. She gently placed her hand on his, feeling the warmth coming from him. Richard, I understand. I know you love your job and what you are doing, but I also hope you understand that our family, we always need you. I need you. I don't want these precious years to pass by and we let the most important things slip away. Richard nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude. I know, Mindy, I really do, but sometimes I forget that my presence is more important than anything else. And now, I am going to do everything I can to change that.